Welcome back to another episode of A Life Partner TV. I am your host, Dr. Mario Torres-Leon. And today I'm super excited because we have another edition of what has now become a tradition in here inside of A Life Partner TV, and is another episode of the HPS, or the Human Power Series. I am beyond grateful and excited to be sharing with you an esteemed member of our community, Mrs. Dottie Hager, who lives here in the United States, where we're filming from. And she happened to be one of our community members who recently completed the most recent edition of the latest cycle of the GL28, or the 28-day Gratitude Launchpad. And I have to say, it never ceases to amaze me, the things that happen when people come from all sorts of walks of life and they come into the community with different reasons. I like to say that people, they come with different agendas or different intentions as to what is it that they would like to get from the experience, and then some. And if you're new to our A Life Partner TV series, I want to extend the warmest of welcomes to you. Thank you for your generosity, for being here with us and gifting us with your time. It's our pledge that this time will be worth your while and you will definitely get great benefit from it. And if you end up liking the content that you're watching today, I'm going to kindly ask you and invite you to follow us and join us in the community so that you can continue to receive our weekly mailings that we put out, where we share new content. And being part of the Alive community membership is absolutely free, so you don't have to pay to join the membership and to gain access to a lot of the content and tools that we put out on a weekly basis for your enjoyment and for your expansion, growth, and so on. But today is not about me, it's about my guest, and this is Dottie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, Dottie, thank you so much for being here, and you're so welcome to be here. Thanks for your generosity in joining us to share your experiences, not just about what happened in the program, but what was happening in your life. What things were you exposed to? What was your journey like? And suddenly, how do you end up in our community and being such an active participant during that cycle of GL28? Welcome to A Life Partner TV, Dottie.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity that we have to share kind of my experience there. I have been, I'm just a teacher and a learner. And so I am trying to evolve to be the highest and greatest that who I am, and have this oneness with God. And that evolves, what that means to me, over and over as I take on new courses. And the way I got into the GL28 is I'm in Dr. Kim's Embracing Health course. And her course is, just opening to be free and just the healthiest you can be, mentally, spiritually, and everything. And so when I got the invitation about gratitude, it really kind of sparked something in me, because I have been working on trying to be more authentic. I was 30-year educator. I was a teacher, administrator, university person, and I have my PhD, and my life has been in my head. And so when I know a lot about gratitude because I have the most blessed life. I just feel like I even have a license plate that says thanks, right? But it was all about being in my head with it, right? Just kind of, experiencing that. And when I felt the invitation on the 28 days, it was more about, how could I be this authentic? How could I be me? And just allow me to come forth, because from Dr. Kim's and many of the years of experience that I have. Oh, I ramble. So I'm a life coach. And so I've really been, I'm 75. And so recently I've backed off of a whole bunch of that. I still have some clients, but I just want to be the best that I can be in regards to that. And so when I saw that, it's like, how can I get away from my people pleasing and just be who I am with everybody and not have to do things right? So that was that's kind of who I am and where I've been and how I got into this. So
You know, thank you for sharing that. It's fascinating to me, Dodie, to continue to see come into our community a wide range of people, like I said, from all different walks of life. I am particularly grateful and super excited and really remain hopeful for the work that we're doing and the impact that it has because we have been resonating with professionals of your caliber. As you just mentioned, you have a PhD in education, so you're a doctor in education. And we've already had numerous professionals who have been featured here in the Human Power series and Life Partner TV who also have higher level of education degrees. And there has been a frequent constant in many of these interviews where the guest has shared very vulnerably and very candidly, just like you just did, how much we have been living in our heads in the mind space. And I would like you to speak a little bit about that if you're so kind, because one of the things that became very evident to me as I have been in this journey of over 30, almost 40 years of being involved with personal development experiences or healing experiences going back to the age of 12 when I first mediated this between a couple. And what I continue to become pretty much convinced about is the fact that we have been living and continue to live in the age of the Enlightenment where we have been revering the brain. And I don't mean that negatively
right.
or a put down for the brain. Clearly, we have progressed in many regards globally because of tapping into the capacity of the brain in education. And I'm a big advocate for education. But what became evident to me is that we've been living from the neck up in many regards and not really inviting the experience of the feeling body. For somebody who's an educator and also a life coach, I would imagine that that was a big aha moment for you during the course of the GL28 experience, a journey. Can you speak to that and really uh, share with the audience how did things start to shift and change as you invited more the possibility or the curiosity to consider that as part of the experience as opposed to just being from the head up? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Um, what I think is when I set my intentions of participating in the program, it was to be authentic, right? And to step into that. And as I've done my past, I always wanted everything to be perfect, like a video to look a certain way or me to say the right things and those kinds of things. And I made a commitment to myself that I was just going to engage in this and be, because that's kind of been my transition in this oneness, right? I have lots of knowledge, right, on how to do things and those kinds of things. So when we were given the task, like the first day, well, every day, of making our little video clips, going online and doing that, immediately I get nervous and I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And remember how I go online and do the live and all of that kind of stuff. So I get in my head and I'm just like, no, you've made a commitment to yourself that you were just going to show up. And so I think it was that commitment to myself, not to anyone else. And I think I was, you mentioned in your introduction to us also about how you played in your head. And so I think there was this great vibration that I was really resonating with that. And that gave me the courage to say, okay, I'm just going to do this, And then the trust, it was like, okay, I'm in this course, and it's for me, it's not for anyone else. And I know gratitude's the greatest prayer, right? To open you up to whatever. And so it was for me to be feeling and then your somo map, right? I mean, when you're learning about the tools and I'm having to pay attention to my heart and then, what am I feeling? Not what do I want to say? What am I feeling and what happened for me? So that's kind of my experience there. Just commitment, I would say, and then just honoring feeling instead of wanting to show what I knew.
That's really beautiful and powerful. But Dottie, one of the things that we have heard um, when people are exploring if this would be a fit for them to join one of the journeys in GL 28, in the 28-day gratitude launchpad, they come and say, well, I've already had a gratitude practice for years, and I say thank you for this, and I journal and this and that. Is this just more of that? And I really honor the question. I think it's a sincere question. I've had it many times be asked, but my reply would always unequivocally be no. It's actually not just that. There's a lot more to it than perhaps you have been exposed. Come to the community to actually learn and practice gratitude differently. How did this change your perspective of gratitude and your gratitude practice?
I think once again, it was not in my head, it was in my heart. As like, and then I mean, I can just ramble on this one forever. Having the 28 days every day, reading the book, The Magic, and then having, I'm going to say lesson plans because that's my experience. Having, the information you would share about what we were going to be offered for the day as our, to help us experience the words, right? You can hear it and read it, but I was into experiencing it. I wanted to be in the gratitude, be in whatever our focus for that day was. I clearly remember one of the first days I had to kind of admit, like when we had to do the 90 seconds or 100 seconds of walking and focus, like my rambling mind, I was like, well, I did start out that, but as soon as I got to where I was starting to go, I forgot it. But it was for me to be so aware. Awareness was huge in this, right? Paying attention to everything that was happening. Each day when you had your, focus of the magic wand or, in-depth 10 things that you were really grateful and why were we grateful for? Then I
Mm.
had to feel that, right? I have this wonderful husband, but why is that? And then that got to the heart of what's most important to my life, right? And so that was what was constantly being revealed to me is just those things that are so important to me in life. And so every day as I was focusing on those, it really was about the experience. And then when in our group, when you watch the videos of the other people and kind of their experiences, because what opens up my heart is look what they were able to do, just it opens up the possibilities and the opportunities, for what you can experience. And then another huge shift on the gratitude for me was I know the concept, what you focus on, you receive. Know that clearly, but I experienced that. And it was like daily when you're focusing on gratitude, what opens, a whole nother experience in your life that you're able to sit there and go, oh my gosh, thank you, thank you. And then another thing that was really great for me is our magic rock. And I still have that by my bedside, that it helps you kind of summarize your day or really, elevate what you are feeling. And it just brings that great joy and I don't know, contentment to your heart when you just think that happened for me. I experienced that. So I might have answered your question, I hope.
No, this is beautiful. One of the things that is striking to me in your experience has been how every single day, and you were very active in the process, how it continued to unfold for you, and how you evolved so exponentially in a matter of 28 days. Sometimes people come in and they really, when they start to see others, as you were saying, having their experiences and sharing them, it starts to crack the shell of perhaps this is not for me, or perhaps there's nothing here for me. And the curiosity starts to blossom. And
Mhm.
with that curiosity and the vulnerability of other members, the courage starts to be mustered. And when all of those ingredients, they are combined under a very safe environment, or inside a very safe environment, some really miraculous things start to really unfold. I'm going to ask you, as you were experiencing yourself in the eyes of others and in the experiences of others, as some others did as well, as they reflected that back to you, because you clearly were a catalyst as well for some other members in the journey to have really dramatic, profound experiences. What things, if you were to give a few examples for somebody who's never done this kind of work, things that you witnessed that really touched you in the journey? Any examples that come to your awareness right now as we share about this, that really marked you, that really left a memory in you?
I almost want to say, like, daily, when you would watch a video of somebody saying, I had the courage because I watched somebody else share, just open up and share something. It was amazing to me in a short distance, especially after coaching people, because what I've learned, if people are open and willing, you can take them wherever they want to go. And not everybody was thinking they were going to get the experience they got here, because I think you don't know where you can possibly go. And I think about, I wish I remember people's names better, but there was a lady at our very last time that she talked to, and she was like 71 years old too. I mean, and she said, I've never opened up like this before, but this has given me, the trust and faith that I could open up and receive and be who she needed to be and stuff. And I felt like really the videos, because when people could see people, you trusted them. And then you could see like three more people would start doing videos. I think that tool is really, really powerful. But it was neat to watch how we could even just write them down, and then people would see and relate to what we were saying in regards to, like, whether it was being authentic or telling the truth, or you know, uh, I know Jahi, for young people to be involved, that was big. I thought, because, I have kids in their 40s, and I think, oh, I would love them to be able to be honest and break through at this age, because that's when I started my journey, and I think, oh my gosh, this could give them so much if they were willing to do that. Um, so I don't know if I gave you enough specific on it, but I think that the daily energy of the group, the trusting that when somebody'd see something or somebody would say something that resonated with them, and I'm sure you might remember, but I was the first person when we had that first conversation to open up and talk. And I couldn't believe that, because everybody kind of sat back, and I thought, okay, something was telling me I had to speak up, and then I felt like that almost snowballed,
Yes.
I think because, here I was, and then people were wanting to do it, wanting to be seen and heard and express, and even how hurtful, how painful it was inside of us. It was like, no, I want to say this, So anyway, I think all the experiences, I mean, your program, the depth of it, the sincerity, and Dr. Mario, I mean, you are just so honest and open and vulnerable. And I think we all felt that. And I think that daily, and that's the power of day after day. When you see that, you start trusting, right? This isn't just something that were said to do or something. You felt it, you were in it, you were experiencing it, and you saw other people, the faces that you could see, because I know different times people would say, oh, look, your wrinkles are gone, or just nice, you're relaxed, you're more relaxed or whatever. So anyway, fabulous, fabulous experience.
You know, I am currently on my transitioning to my 45th cycle of doing GL28. And for all of you who are new to this conversation, welcome to Alive Partner TV. I am your host, Dr. Mario Torres-Leon, in another episode of the Human Power Series, or HPS, with my very special and esteemed guest, Mrs. Dottie Hager. And we've been talking about her experiences as a professional educator, a doctor in education, and then her journey inside of personal development and healing education, and then coming into our community, into the Alive Partner community, where she was one of our members in our latest edition of GL28, the 28-day Gratitude Launchpad. Dodie, one of the things that is a challenge nowadays, and I would like to believe that because of the power of this community, we have made tremendous progress in addressing this particular concern. And I'm referring to the aspect of privacy. In this day and age, with the advent of so many different social media platforms and the feelings of unsafety, and everything is public knowledge and there's nothing left for us, one of the things that became very evident to me is that creating a community where people are truly safe, not because I say so,
Mhm.
but because all of us collectively, we contribute to building such safe container, to build a community that is really not founded in judgment towards others, building a community that really holds space for people to have their own transformation independent of one another and within. A community where you truly feel love. And that may sound really corny.
Mhm.
And I say it and I acknowledge it. But the truth is, all of those ingredients, in my experience, have been present all along in the different experiential courses that I offer with my team in the Alive Partner community. Could you share some insights as to what that was like for you? And how would you really describe that aspect of the experience to somebody who may be considering joining us in one of our experiences, who is truly and validly concerned with those aspects of doing things online?
Yeah, I think, or I felt the way when you began the program and you started discussing that, I could feel my, shoulders relaxing and feeling a little more trusting than worried, and I think I also go back to, like this is about trusting for me, right? Trusting that the highest. And then, really, my first experience with you about being open and vulnerable, and you listened, you heard, and you gave me, it was about having an adversarial relationship with my weight. And I was able to hear what you said, not resist, not feel like you were attacking or,
Mm.
it was so trusting. And so my heart was open to the words. And so I felt like, I think I was lucky because I had that experience right off, that I was able to feel like this is an environment that I can be safe, that I'm going to be able to trust what he's saying. And then as people, as we kept experiencing the things, I mean, you just felt that, because people became more vulnerable and more vulnerable as time went on. And so I think that concern about worrying about, is this safe? Am I going to be put down? Or how are people going to use my words against me? Is what I think sometimes people don't feel. And I didn't feel that at all. I mean, I feel like we had the biggest support system. I mean, it was absolutely amazing how one person would just build and build. And then you could just see those people thriving, that they were more willing and more willing to open up. So I think you setting the tone and then having people that are experiencing that, being more courageous and opening up, I think it gives examples to other people about this really is a safe community.
Hmm.
And I think once visual, and I'm a visual person, so the videos, even though I was a nervous wreck about doing them and how to get on and is this looking, okay, and all that kind of stuff. But I think all of that played into the safety, feeling real safe and um, feeling safe physically as well as emotionally in the environment.
Thank you so much. One of the things that happened in the cycle that you were in with, so many people from all over the world was massive openings, massive breakthroughs.
Yes.
It is not a far-fetched comment to say that we witnessed, all of us, profound healing in
Yes.
close to 200 people, which was really what a privilege, what an honor to be witnessing one another and to be supporting one another and really seeing the power of the human spirit, the human potential really take over and support all of us to go through that process. I say this and I mean it so sincerely. Every single experiential course that I have had the privilege to put together and conduct and be part of with my community, my life is transformed every single time. I receive so much from the generosity of the people who are in the experience. We all do. And clearly, the journey that you were in was no exception to that. We got to see from physical healing to emotional healing to spiritual healing to people transcending their professional limitations and being able to manifest different professions, from people having challenges financially to being able to receive financial freedom and entries into their lives that they were not even expecting. And I really attribute this not to me. I really attribute it to the power of the group, the power of the intention that everybody came in, and the power of the ever increasing vulnerability during the course of the 28 days of the cycle. That was one of the biggest gifts that we experienced in your particular cycle, but we see it every single time. And what's amazing is, and I've talked about this, when I first started, you'll laugh about this, Dodie, but when I first started doing this process of GL28, I was a toe dipper. And I was dipping my toe in the first cycle. And I talk about this very openly because I was really that guy. And but then certain things started to happen, call it luck, call it synchronicities, I don't know, accidental, moments and so on. And then I started to realize that it was none of the above. That in fact, it was really the unfolding of my daily practice and my recommitment. I went into a second cycle and I said to myself, Mario, you're going to do this every single day. You're not going to deviate. And then things started to accelerate more and more. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm currently transitioning to my 45th cycle. So it's really difficult to explain to somebody who may not be exposed to any of this. But then when they hear from somebody like you, it starts to really take a life of its own, as we have seen in every single amazing guest that we've had in the Human Power series. One of the things that was also really special, Dodie, that we witnessed in your cycle was the first time of hosting a family,
Mm.
and multiple family members from this family joined the journey together, the cycle, and some of them have been actual guests of this series, and some of them will be featured in the weeks to come. And to your point about your children and what's in store for them, even if they're in their 40s, is that families that practice gratitude, and I'm not saying just doing my programs, just really having awareness, which is a big word that you also brought earlier in the conversation. There was a big development of that awareness muscle during the course of those 28 days, because it really makes you realize how much we're receiving on a moment to moment basis that we simply don't take into account for a bunch of reasons. We're not here to judge it. But when that awareness comes in, it really changes our lives. And having had a complete family be part of the experience, I thought that that was something really special. What was your experience when you saw that?
Oh, it just opened my heart. I was just like, oh, everybody should do this. How wonderful would it be able to be vulnerable at that level? And the mom and dad I mean, they just totally opened up, and the forgiveness, the love, the gratitude for, all that had happened and what was happening for them, and being able to witness that and be a part of that. You just felt like, oh my gosh, I would love this for every family, because then you open different conversations in family, right? And you heal past wounds. Show we're all just evolving and we're doing the best that we can do, and then when you're experiencing it from your heart, instead of we should act like this or you're supposed to do that, and it just takes a whole different focus for your family and for your connections with them and everybody. I think it opened up for us. Maybe that was the connection, piece also, for us to be able to feel like, we were a family. They gave us that image, and then for us to create that, and be supportive. I
I
think,
completely agree with you. It gave us license to
yeah,
to
good
be
word.
part of a family and
Yes.
show up in such powerful, vulnerable, raw, and sincere ways. I think that's a beautiful way to put it. Dodie, can you share with the audience what happened for you in GL28 when you started to discover the soul map? And for those of you watching this recording and may not be acquainted with that term, soul map was something that came into my field of awareness some years back, pertaining to every single person has a very unique map, physical representation in their body of where their emotions and their feelings are. And this was a really, earth-shattering discovery for me. I don't like to say that I created that, because I think that would be pedantic. The awareness opens all of us to really receive different kinds of information that are here for us to benefit from, to practice and change our lives through their use. But when I started to discover that and to see that there was a reproducible pattern to the utilization of the soul map, I felt compelled to share it with the world and incorporate it into my work in the mind body medicine space, and bring that on top of everything that I have seen in my career as a physician. How did that change you moving forward or even during the experience, Dodie? Because that really challenged this living from the head style, not just for you, for all of us who've been through this. And I'm sure it's really taken a life of its own. Can you share some of that with us?
Yeah, I mean, this was like one of the big magical moments for me, and is part of it, because it is that embodying, kind of like I started our conversation. I wanted to be it and I wanted to feel it. Now, it doesn't always feel so good because of, what's happening or what's coming up in regards to all of those. But the map, as we had to describe where were we feeling, or where maybe you experiencing a certain situation. And so, like, whatever we were experiencing, we had to write, kind of put X's about where that was happening in our body. And so it made me feel it inside. I wasn't in
Mm.
my head like, oh, that's painful. I was it. It was a being in me. And then one of the big things, because really being in my body is a big thing, instead of seeing everything outside of yourself. I think that's what this course does also, because when you're feeling it and your gratitude is coming within, and not, I should be feeling grateful for this or whatever. And then I realized the pattern of blockages and
Mm.
how, like in my sternum and in my throat, there were so many things. And it was back to, I need to express my authentic self. And when you have blockages there and realize that, back to Dr. Kim's work on healing our bodies and just allowing it to come up. And when like the energy centers and those kinds of things and feel and see, when you see the pattern over and over again, like, oh yeah, that day I did the same spots and this day, it's kind of like you have to own it, great awareness of this map has allowed me to see what's happening in my body. And if I want my body free flowing and I want to be that instead of constricted, then there's information here for me to be able to utilize. And I think when I saw that, now what I never got to is I know we had a couple people in the courses that could put that on the computer and put it in there where they were doing it, but I was marking mine during the course on paper. So that would be a whole nother step for me to have to take. But I think the magic of embodying, what I was feeling and then seeing where I had those blockages and how that could open up which is what happened, a number of things happening in regards to, being able to express in different ways.
That's a big game changing moment it definitely was for you. Certainly was for me when I first became aware of that years back. And then I continue to see how this creates incredible transformation in every single person that starts to tap into it regularly through the prompting and the support that we provide in the community for people to have this kind of experience. Now, one of the things that has evolved as a product of knowing these things and seeing how powerful they are is this little formula that I talk about, and you heard me in the experience, which is gratitude plus feeling
Let's
equals
see.
healing. Exactly. Yes,
Yes,
gratitude
yes,
plus healing
yes.
equals healing. And truthfully, as much as I recognize that there is simply some incredible work that is being done in the world by some very well known people, which I'm so grateful that they are here on the planet at the same time that I'm living in the planet and you, Dodie. But the thing is, I've never seen just two things combined and the way that we practice it during GL28 that unleash so much in such a short amount of time for so many.
Mhm. Yes.
And I'm going to invite you to speak to that from your experience, right? But my awareness is that I have not witnessed anything that just two things can unleash so much for so many in such a short amount of time.
Well, I'll go to my weight. The adversarial relationship. When I heard those words, it was like, oh my gosh. But it was true, when I had to own that it was true in regards to how having gratitude, how could I have gratitude for these extra pounds and, being ashamed and how I look or whatever. But the gratitude made me start focusing on I do so much, and I mean, it had me focus on the gifts within that, even the gifts of the pain some of the words that you used that day. And I sat there and I just thought, no, this is such a gift to me to be able to feel this. And because it was in my gut that I was feeling kind of like, no, and it was all wanting to come out. And I'll just use kind of like a balance scale. The way I was talking to myself and feeling about myself was, say 70%, because I've done a lot of work on it, of not very positive kind of things. But because of owning and sharing and really focusing on the gratitude, like when I went to the gym this morning and into my class and stuff, it was like even the judgments are gone. I mean, there's some and it pops up, but I'm catching myself and it's just like, thank you. And, and it's, but I'm grateful for, that our little comments that we were taught in there. And it just is almost natural now. So, just the focus of the feeling and embodying and knowing where it's happening. If I listen to my gut, okay, what's that telling me? I'm hearing, I'm feeling in my body what's happening. And I know because of that map, it's really got me maybe honed in is kind of the word, that like, okay, here that is. And there's a message or something I need to listen to. So,
That is so good. That is so powerful because it goes from being in a course or an experience to not being something forgotten like it happens most of the time with this course that I'm going to do and that other thing I'm going to do and I'm going to learn some technique and then time goes on and nothing happened. You're really talking about lasting change. Like
mhm.
something physiologically, spiritually, emotionally happened for you that now in a kind way you're kind of bringing yourself back to that place.
Yeah, I'm on the positive side. Yesterday, when I was walking with my girlfriend, and I was telling Lisa, I was like, Lisa, I'm so excited. You wouldn't believe, because she's had to listen to me for years about it and stuff. And I can say, I'm saying more good things, and not even just saying, but feeling the energy of that, right? Of
Yes.
just knowing and being that. And it's like, okay, I get, and thank you, God, for, this issue and how much the depth of what it's created for me is unbelievable. So,
Yeah, you really are speaking to something that is incredibly powerful. I don't want to sound like it. That's the only word that I know how to say, but the things that are coming out of you, they really are. So, that's what it is. One thing is to know things from here.
yes,
Another is to have a memory in your feeling body about a truly magnificent experience. What you're speaking to is bringing yourself back very kindly to the magnificence of what that feels like. What is the
yes,
feeling? The fact of the matter is, when we are in such state, our inner chemistry, what we call the physiology or the neurophysiology, the words don't matter, what's happening inside at a chemical level is very different when we are living and being reminded of what those sensations are because you have brought yourself to a place of tuning in to see what's there, as opposed to having this talk
yes,
down and say, just be positive. Come on, don't talk to yourself that way. You will lose your weight. Don't you worry about that. Da, da, da. Meanwhile, the body is carrying all this burden that feels really heavy. So there's a clash that the brain does not want to acknowledge. But the
right,
wisdom of the body is living a state of struggle. And when there's no reconciliation between the two, the chemistry that generates the state where we can lose weight at an easier pace without struggling, the cortisol levels, the stress hormones that get pretty much they get kicked into heavy action. They don't allow us, right? We are in a state of the lion and the bear is about to kill me, and it's being generated by the emotions that are living inside of us. The moment that you started to really go into that, to honor that, and not just to be in gratitude for the things that are working, but also for all the things that are being felt, then that really speaks to what you've been saying in this conversation, which is the aspect of embodiment,
yes,
the aspect of truly living, the aspect of all these things going through you, and you are completely aware that they're there, even if they're uncomfortable, and bringing massive gratitude for all the discomfort that is being felt because it only allows it to go right through us. And we know that those emotions, those states, those chemical states that we experience or we interpret as whether it's anger, frustration, whatever the word may be, they will pass because no chemical reaction inside the body is everlasting. Otherwise, we would die pretty quickly. We would be consumed chemically by whatever. The fire cannot be eternal unless there's something feeding it, whether it's more logs or more fuel of some sort. And the same thing is happening inside of our experience. And this was a massive aha for me to be able to really make the connection of the mind body aspect of being alive, of being humans. And insofar as we start to really embrace all of this peace, then we really start to have an experience of joy and happiness and forgiveness and compassion, not just for self, but every single person around us, that allows us to see the light pretty bright, even if in the eyes of others may be actually pretty dark. Is that making sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
It,
Yeah.
it, so that's what I see you speak to in such a compelling and such a personal way. So grateful for that. Dodie, people ask me sometimes, well, I'm thinking about doing this or joining your community. Forget about doing a course and just being in this kind of conversations with us. Who is this for, would you say? If somebody were to say, oh, you went through that, Dodie. Is this for me? What would you say?
So many people today are talking about, the world around us. And, if you're feeling negative about the world or about your experience or something, I think that might even be a good starting point, right? Because it will just help, even if it's on a mind level to begin with. It will help you start focusing on, God, there are a lot of things out there that I can be thankful for, instead of constantly, complaining about everything. So I think for people that might be overwhelmed with, there's too much going on, or, I'm stressed out, or, I just want something different. I think this course can be just magical for them, because it really is an experience. Because as you start thinking about more, things that you want in life, right? I want more people that are kind to each other. I want people that are, I want more peaceful. Like my friend I walked with yesterday, she was just like, and I'm like, Lisa, you just, you could possibly, this could be great. It was her birthday and I gave her the book, The Magic. So, but I think it's that, for every one of us probably have people in our lives that we know are overwhelmed or feeling, uneasy about parts of their lives. And I think this gives them an opportunity to just reframe or, shift the way that they're thinking, and not feel overwhelmed, like I've got to do this big course, I've got to do all these things. It's just tiny things, when you focus on, like a magic wand, or, I mean, it's just simple things that make huge differences. So I would just say, people close to you or people that are just in a place that they wish something was a little different. I think
Eh,
this can be big shift for them.
Thank you very much for sharing that. One of the things that comes to my awareness is there's something to be said about being in the company of others who really have, your best interest in their awareness, in their hearts. And one of the things that continues to become really evident to me as our Alive Partner community grows is that you don't have to go at it alone.
Mhm.
And many courses are, you may be with other people and so on, but they're very personal in terms of how you do your things and so on. But this was a all hands on deck, everybody for one another, everybody showing up every day. The aspect of having the quick invites, which is my short term for quick invitations or quick invites, and having the video shares, I think it's a remarkably different experience from any other course that I have witnessed or given before. And now it has become, it's essential. It's an integral part of the experience because
Mhm.
it allows people to break through what I call the IHV, or the invisible human virus, which you've heard me talk about in my community. So those things are really powerful. So I would add to what you said, the fact that you have a community of people who are really vested in seeing you succeed, have true miracles, breakthroughs, transformation happen in your life. It makes it a really special opportunity as well. Dottie, in parting thoughts as we're coming close to an end in this amazing conversation, tell us a little bit about where your life is now versus where it was before you started this and how things continue to unfold for you. Because ultimately, that is what we care about, how your life continues to get better and better every day.
My heart is opened in ways that it wasn't open before. And I notice like I'm connecting there more than just in my head that I've got to fix things or, those kinds of things. I'm seeing more positive, just more things to be grateful for, really just the way I view what's happening in my life,
Mm.
and then a thousand gratitudes every day. And I love looking, like at my book or like I said, my magic rock, and to be able to just think about, something that I hadn't really thought about. It just gives you that depth and that just real focus. And for me, it's like I've moved from my head to my heart, and I feel like I'm more authentic. I feel like I'm just freer, and it just I'm vibrating at a different level. I'm sure that is strange saying or whatever, but the frequency and what I'm receiving and where I'm being is, in such a better place, and just feel so blessed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think,
Dottie, on a personal note,
uh-huh.
how has your husband and your children experienced you? Because you were coming in a pretty upbeat person, which is part of your makeup, which is, I love that about you. But there's a genuineness to your bubbliness and your light that for those that don't know you, it's evident. But for somebody like me that knows you from that journey, it's just really such a gift to see it. What has been experienced by your children, by your husband? Because I am sure that they must have remarked about what's happening.
Yeah, and it really is, because even my husband keeps asking questions, like, okay, how can we do that? I think there's just an openness, is probably more the openness is what I would say, and less afraid to say things, just because they know, like, I'm maybe not trying to fix it or maybe judging too, because, I have pretty high expectations and those kinds of things. So just the openness and willing to listen and feel at a different space.
That is so awesome. I want to thank you for sharing that. If you just joined us here, we are pretty much wrapping up our latest episode of A Life Partner TV on our HPS or Human Power series. And I have been incredibly, incredibly blessed and honored to be hosting an esteemed member of our Alive community, Mrs. Dottie Hager, as she has been sharing with all of us her experiences through the last cycle of the 28-day Gratitude Launchpad, which we call in short GL28. Dottie, I want to thank you on behalf of the entire community and everybody who was on our last cycle of GL28 for your vulnerability, for your sincerity, for your light, for your willingness to show up in such an amazing and big way, for allowing us to see us, for touching our lives, my life and the lives of everybody who was with us in that cycle, because ultimately that created healing for all of us. I continue to invite you to tune in and join us. We kind of miss not seeing you in this present cycle right now. You're such a lighthearted presence, which makes everything better. And that's the way I experience you. And I'm sure that everybody who's listening to this and was there will say, I second that. So thank you so much for your generosity, for your time, for being here with us and opening and living from this place of being open so that it can inspire others to see that it's possible for them as well. And if this material has resonated with you as you watch this conversation with Mrs. Dottie Hager, I just have one thing to ask of you. Just share the content with the people you care the most in your life. Why? Because as I like to say in every single episode of the shows, you sharing the content with somebody else you care about may be or may make you be the catalyst in their lives for them to have a better life. And that is only up to you. And we call that the ripple effect. We just put it out, we share it, and incredible things happen. So thank you for being here with us and watching this interview. And please do not forget to sign up for our free membership in the Alive community membership so you can have free access to tools, to the content that we put out, to the conversation that is happening inside of our community with our esteemed members. Dottie, thank you so much again. Have a great rest of the week, and I can't wait to see you again in our community. Have an amazing day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.